Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. We are thrilled to be bringing this topic to you today, focusing on the hospitality industry and the return of it as we come out of this pandemic or work our way through it, wherever we're at with that. If you don't know me, I am Ashley Grigg, Director of Marketing and Communications with the High Point Market Authority. Hopefully I can meet you in the future, but today I say hello virtually via Zoom. We're excited to have you on this webinar. As you can see here, we have an incredible lineup of hospitality industry experts, and you're going to be hearing from them in just a minute. Few housekeeping items before we get started. We are recording this webinar, so you will be able to access that and share it afterwards. We'll be putting it up on our website and our YouTube page. We also will be taking Q&A at the end of the session. So if you have any questions to ask the panel, click on that Q&A tab and you can submit that right there throughout the duration of the discussion. And we are also offering IDCEC CEU credits. If you need those continuing education credits, we'll get the attendance details from this Zoom report, and we will send you a certificate for that afterwards. So thank you for joining us for that today. This 60-minute session does give you 1 CEU credit. Before we get to the panel here, of course, a quick reminder about Fall Market coming up. If you have not yet been to High Point Market, I encourage you to come and see and explore. There's lots to do here, and we're going to show you a little bit more about how that touches the hospitality industry in just a second. But here's the dates. If you haven't written them on your calendar yet, registration's already open. So go to highpointmarket.org/register so you can get your pass in the mail before you even get here. And with Fall Market coming, hospitality at market is back. It took a little bit of pause in 2020, but it is back this year, and excited to bring all these hospitality products that are here at High Point Market straight to you. So make sure you're marking your calendars for that. It is Sunday and Monday of Fall Market. You see the dates right here, October 17th through the 18th. This is an exciting program. If you're not familiar with it, I encourage you to go over to highpointmarket.org/hospitality and learn more about this program. We recognize that with the size of the showrooms here in High Point, the manufacturers that exhibit here were able to show their hospitality product line right along with their residential lines. And so we put this program together about 6 years ago. This is the 5th program coming up. And we really focus on, through this program, who has the hospitality product here in High Point. You can see we have a fabulous steering committee that supports us in this. And actually, I have a quick video of this steering committee that I'm going to show you today, because they can tell you a little bit more about the program than I can. So let me play that video for you real quick.
One thing that people, I think, make the mistake of when they think about High Point, they think of it as just another trade show. It's not. It is a city filled with furniture, accessories, fabric, rugs.
It's a city basically built around the furniture market.
You get the sense of scale, and you can't explain that to someone. You have to be in the space. You have to go to the Sistine Chapel and see the magnificent, wonder.
It's a design destination, period. This market is vibrant. It is exciting.
There is really not an event, an hospitality event that offers so much options and choice.
As I talk to people in the industry, they believe that they can do a one-stop shop, being that there's so many options here instead of going to another shows.
You can come here, you can get your furniture, you can get your rugs, you can get your lighting, you can get your fabrics, you can get your artwork.
We have a global supply of product here. We have makers here. It's just a wonderful, wonderful place.
This is the flagship experience for buyers to really immerse themselves in our brands.
I mean, there is not a product category here that's really not covered. This is the one place where you can see it all. It is just like going into a mall, shopping all at one time, and you're done. This is not the Javits Center. This is not Mandalay Bay. This is a city filled with product, and it's all there for you to come see.
That's what we have to offer that no one else can match, is access to the creative teams, ownership, and to more product than is housed anywhere else on the planet.
We really hope that you'll give us a good hard look. We want to talk to you. We want to help you to make your decision. And we know that when you make your decision in the affirmative, that your expectations will be exceeded beyond belief.
Bring your camera fully charged. You're going to take a lot of pictures.
There we have it right there. Let me get my camera back up. Awesome. So that I said it a whole lot better than I could have said it. So there's a little bit of information about our hospitality market program. I do hope that you will join us this fall for that. Information is on the website, and I'll drop that in the chat in just a minute. But first, I want to introduce today's moderator for the panel, and then she will introduce all of our panel participants to you. You saw her in the video. Let me just quick tell you a little bit of background on Lynda Welte herself. She is a manufacturer's representative and renowned networker with special interest in the hospitality industry. Her expertise ranges from sales, marketing, to purchasing, to manufacturing. And she has helped drive programming and attendance for High Points Hospitality at Market program since 2016. As you saw earlier, she's also a member of our steering committee. And we do appreciate all you do. Lynda, go ahead and bring your camera up, and I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it away. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much. Really, thanks for everything. Thanks for everything you've done to help facilitate this production of this awesome panel. And I've got to tell you, let's get squared away, that talk about talent. I want to thank our speakers for jumping in really at quite a last minute notice, because everybody's Zooming today. And with the pandemic, it's how we're staying connected. And I want to start with introductions in alphabetical order with Alan Benjamin, the B word. Alan Benjamin, the founder of Benjamin West, the world's leading hospitality, FF&E, and OS&E purchasing firm. You purchase over $500 million a year on behalf of your clients, handling all segments of the hospitality industry. As a respected industry expert, Alan co-chaired the ISHC's CapEx reports in 2007, 2014, and 18. Alan Benjamin. And then we jump to Dallas Chapman. Dallas is vice president and general manager at Bernhardt Hospitality, one of the leading case goods and upholstery manufacturers to the hospitality industry. And I point out that Bernhardt is one of the resident showrooms at High Point, participates in that. Dallas, you had prior positions in flooring and in the fabric industries. You were with BOU of America and Kravat Contract. Christina Flannery. Christina comes from the ownership side of the business. She's director of design and construction for Park Hotels and Resorts. She brings over 17 years of interior design management experience to her team, having previously established the interiors teams of some of the leading multifamily businesses in the US. And she worked for Marriott International, as I did in one day, and worked on their corporate owned properties and franchised projects as well. Flip. Now we go to an essential person. I love talking about logistics and transportation. This is Darlene Henke. She is the president and CEO of Audit Logistics. This is a third-party logistics company that's been providing transportation and warehousing. And in some cases, I was so happy to hear about this, installation services. She's been doing this for over 20 years. The company has 4 offices in the United States and handles an average about, get this, 600 hotel projects a year. It's amazing. Kavitha Iyer. Kavitha is an architect and designer with over 20 years of experience in the hospitality industry. She's joined IHG Hotels and Resorts as recently as 2021 as the head of design for the Americas. and she's responsible for leading architecture and the design strategy initiatives for 13 of IHG's 16 brands. So that's our panel, our illustrious panel. And I have the privilege of asking them questions. And what's going to be more exciting is when I'm done, and then we hear your questions for this panel, because these are the experts. I have to start with saying I was inspired by something I spotted from Dallas Chapman. It was an article that Alan Benjamin produced in interview for predictions about our future coming out of the pandemic. So he's going to interject much of that. So I'm going to start with Christina.
Lynda.
Christina, there you are. Thank you again for joining us. As hotel owner, you obviously want to make sure that your projects are delivered on time, on budget. But as we transition out of this pandemic, new challenges, new exciting moments. So we ask, what are your greatest challenges right now? You work with your contracted designers. Are there things that are more critical now than ever before? Are resources being stressed at an all-time high? Do you have new concerns that maybe you didn't have before the pandemic? It's a general question. It's really an opportunity for you to speak in candor.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lynda, for the opportunity to speak today, and thanks for the great questions. As you mentioned, as hotel owners, our number one priority is to deliver our projects on schedule and on budget. And with that being said, as we begin to restart these projects and plan for future projects, we are diligently working with our industry partners, our procurement teams, the furniture vendors themselves to really get ahead of what we're seeing out there and make sure that we're eliminating risks in the beginning so we can stay on top of the FF&E process. Recently, we have been experiencing some challenges with lead times, specifically with product coming in from overseas. These longer lead times, I think, have really been a challenge for everyone. For future planning, we can accommodate those lead times in our budgets, but for projects that are recently getting restarted or have a faster track to get in and renovated before business comes back online, we really need to look for some vendors that we can pair with that have better incentives and lead times for us. We're experiencing this on the case goods side, the court side, lighting, soft seating, and it is a real challenge right now in the industry. Fortunately, for some of the smaller scale projects, we have been teaming up with manufacturers that are producing here in the States. And that has been a real wonderful opportunity for us to see what their capabilities and capacities are to help us manufacture maybe for some of even those larger scale projects that maybe we would have shopped out in the past. So I think there's definite opportunities for us to explore, and High Point Market sounds like a wonderful event to really start engaging with some of these vendors that typically won't be producing, larger quantities, but maybe there's a way that we can get this to work for everyone. I think that would be a great strategy.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. We're looking for more resources, flexibility. Thanks. We turn to Kavitha. Kavitha, as head of interior design for IHG, you're focusing on design strategies for interior design, architecture, and experience for the 4 collections of IHG, which are 13 out of the 16 brands. And I hope you don't mind, I want to mention them because, believe it or not, I get people that ask me things like, oh, is Courtyard a Hilton product? So if you don't mind, so you have the Essential Collection, which is Holiday Inn Express, the new brand called Avid. You have Suites, which are Candlewood Suites, Holiday Inn Vacation Club, Staybridge Suites, and the new Atwell Suites. Then in your Premium Collection, you have Crown Plaza, Even Hotels. You have one of the brands that is in China, and Voco. Then in your Luxury Lifestyle, which you say is venturing into the Americas, is Hotel Indigo, Intercontinental, two brands that you don't manage. I won't get into that, but Regent, which I love. So this is overall in general, I apologize, but why would we want to go to IHG brands as consumers, besides your great variety that you have to offer? And what are new challenges that you have today that you didn't have in your prior roles? And frankly, the optimist that I am, and I know you are, what are the opportunities that you're finding coming out of the pandemic? So it's a mouthful, but take it
absolutely.
away.
Well, Lynda, I will always count on you to challenge me up for an answer. Thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of today's discussion. I think it's a really exciting time, as always, in the world of hospitality to be a part of this family and part of this community. I think we're all here today because we enjoy this platform of not only enjoying travels ourselves, but to be facilitators in allowing the overall population of the planet to see the world through our eyes. And we all have a place and a part to play in it. As you know, I myself am an avid traveler, and your first question to me is, why IHG, right? Well, IHG to me, it's a personal story for me. It's one of those first brands that actually came from an international background. The Intercontinental Hotel, the namesake brand for the brand itself, was a platform that came out of the UK, as you know, and is one of the most, what I would call, the essentials of the international brands, or the Grand Dam hotels that most of us are familiar with. So wherever on the planet that we've been in, one of the first truest international brands would be the Intercontinental Hotels. And I have my own personal stories from my childhood, having been in such hotels, having traveled and growing up internationally myself. But today, as we move into our world, we have several of our, what I would call our cousin brands, Marriott, my former alma mater, as well as Hilton, and, several others, as we call them, competition and friendly friends of ours. But we believe that we play a collective role in this community of hospitality, just as others. And I think coming out of the pandemic, I think this couldn't be more truer, that we're all in this together, right? I think we're all in this together, not only as good competitors and great partners, but we all see the world for wanting to facilitate not only our guests to come back and travel with us, but also to energize the world of owners to come build with us, right? And come enjoy and foster and grow our brands. So as Christina mentioned, from the owner community, we really want to make the process of building an IHG and growing their environment and their investment at IHG a pleasure, as well as having the ability to see their business come to fruition through the guest's eyes by making these products exciting for them for a variety of different reasons. So that's sort of the opportunity that I see in my new role here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And again, we're going to tag you with questions and answers at the end, because we know you're out there. Darlene, one of my favorite spots, logistics, transportation, warehousing. So you get an owner or a manufacturer or a purchasing agent coming to you and going, what has happened to the price of transportation? Why did my container go from $5,000 to $29,000? And how am I going to share this with my owner and have them buy that this is reasonable? So my question, it's bigger than both of us, but why have prices rapidly gone up? Do you see any end of this in sight? Do you know when normal will be back again? Do you have anything that you can share through the crystal ball?
Yeah, absolutely, Lynda. And I want to say thanks again for inviting me to speak on the panel. I appreciate any opportunity that I can get out there to talk about logistics, and especially what's going on in the world today as it relates to shipping and costs and lead times. So one place I just want to start out with the answer to my question is, you know, a lot of people ask me, how did all this start? Or how did we get into the situation that we're in right now? And I think it's important for people to remember that if we go back to 2020 in February and March, that was when COVID first globally started to hit and impact the world everywhere. And it was in February and March, even here in the United States, that we started to see the shutdowns of communities and factories, and governments were making, you know, mandate stay-at-home orders. And that also started happening, again, not in the US, but also overseas in China, in Vietnam, and all across the globe. Well, by the time late May, June came around, people started to ease up on that a little bit. They started to say, okay, you can go back to work, or we can get out and start to have small gatherings again. So what you found then was that a lot of manufacturing facilities started to come back to business. Well, the problem was between that February, March time and June, all over the globe, containers sat at different manufacturing facilities, or they sat in ports while their things were shut down, or they sat even at hotel properties waiting to get offloaded and put into the rooms by construction sites that maybe had COVID outbreaks and had to shut down. We all sort of remember hearing about this. Well, what that did was that created a global container shortage. And what I always try to tell people is, remember, it's kind of like playing a game of chess, and all of a sudden you realize that all your chess pieces are not in the correct spot. And then all of a sudden you're trying to scramble to move them around, and you can only move one space at a time, and it never naturally happens like you hope. So if we speed that up to today, that's how we have this global container shortage that's been going on, and why manufacturers are trying to produce product and trying to ship product, but they either can't get access to containers, or even if they do and they're shipping them, by the time they're arriving at the ports, they're waiting, you know, several days to several weeks to get on a boat, because it created a huge backlog and a huge capacity issue. Similar to like airlines, if flight lanes aren't busy, they reduce the number of planes that take that lane. The cargo ships and the ocean carriers did the same thing. So as that all starts to come back online, you've got hundreds of thousands of people, not just in hospitality, but the automotive industry, the exercise equipment industry, all the industries that you can think of, that are now trying to ship their products and get their products over to the US, just as the example. So this is what's created this rise in container prices. It's demand. Just like, again, the airlines, once the tickets were really cheap during COVID if you wanted to fly, but now if you're checking your airline prices, the cost of the tickets have gone up. So the same things happened at an astronomical rate with containers. A lot of people ask me, like, when do we think that this is going to end? And what I think is more concerning than what we've already been through is what continues to happen and what we're starting to see in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I think it was around 7/20 was the first time that I had heard of a container being $25,000 to ship from China into the Long Beach port. I've actually heard of other instances where they went as high as 35,000. And what I can tell you that's not good for our industry is that, and every industry, is that back in June, around the beginning to mid-June, there was a big COVID outbreak in China. And one of the main ports over there, the Yantian port, about a third of it was shut down because of COVID cases. And that created an additional backlog that we still hadn't overcome yet from the original COVID outbreak. For the 9th day in a row now, the Ningbo port in China has been shut down because of COVID cases, which is, again, not a very good thing. Today, I was looking at some shots online, and there's approximately 70 to 80 container ships that are sitting outside the port waiting to get in to get unloaded. A lot of people have heard over the last few weeks that Vietnam had those factory shutdowns. I've heard of a couple factories that have opened in the last couple of days, and some that are going to open on the around like the 22nd or sometime next week. So as soon as all that stops happening, I think container prices will go down. What's bad news is that even in Vietnam today, they reported a record case of new COVID cases over the last 90 days. And we believe that that's going to continue to go on. So until we can get through COVID, I do believe we're going to continue to have shutdowns that are going to make containers sit at factories, containers sit at ports, containers sit on ships outside in the ocean, not being able to get unloaded. And until we start to see a relief from at least that, there's no way that the supply chain is going to catch up anytime soon. And rates won't go down when they do go down as fast as what they've gone up.
It's amazing. Thank you. That's straight talk. It really is, folks. And like you just said, it's really about the pandemic. It's managing the numbers. I don't know. Sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And I just one other quick thing, and I don't like talking about prices going up because we're always the companies that get all the grief about why are your prices so high to begin with. But you know, the other thing, so that's what's going on with containers and imports. But the other thing people have to understand is it's affecting in the United States too. So the Port of Long Beach and the Port of Los Angeles are recording in August all-time record highs of imports that are coming into the country. And we're seeing a spike in even trucking prices out of California just because of the high amount of volume that's coming in. And historically, this time of the year is when the ports really start to get busy because of the retail Christmas season and the holiday season. And then you have the push before Chinese New Year at the beginning of next year where manufacturers are trying to get as much produced and out before the new year hits. So again, unfortunately, it's systemic. That's why it's called a supply chain. And what we're starting to see here in the US is the cost of shipping is also going up. And I was joking with my sister the other day because we were talking about Christmas already. And word to the wise, if you're going to order something for Christmas and you plan to have it shipped, you probably better order it before Halloween. Domestically. Okay. So just it's going to happen everywhere. So.
Okay. Well, I worry about my air conditioner too that I need. You know, now that there's a lot of money in the economy and we want them spending it on travel. Anyway, thank you. That is incredible insight. Thank you. It answers a lot of questions for people who ask us, manufacturers, purchasing agents, and your expanded explanation is appreciated. Alan, I have all kinds of questions for you, but I'm going to shift really because your article was so cool. But I have to say that was written or highlighted in March of this year, CoStar, H&N, and it talked about this boom we can expect. You know, we're all getting excited. You know, 2022 to 24, you know, hair on fire. Now we have, you know, the variant Delta in our way. So could you expand or rather talk about the article and the insight you had at that time and what might have changed from that? Because you had some pretty interesting predictions.
Yeah, I actually authored it in February. It was published in March, so I'll call it roughly 6 months ago. One of the things I was wrong on is I was saying container costs would only be 3 to 4 times what they were, and they're more like 8 to 10 times, as Darlene was just outlining. You know, one of the main themes of that article was that we're going to have probably the largest demand for CapEx and period of CapEx in all of our collective lifetimes in 22 to 24. I still believe that. It might be now 23, 24. A lot of the major brands have given kind of a 1-year referendum on CapEx and renovations. But while that's good for the owner short term, it actually is going to cause even more compression in 23 and 24. And as Darlene was talking about her Christmas gift of trying to get it ordered early, my message to all the owners would be, don't wait. Whether it's for production time on a vendor, container space, domestic truck space, or even at the consultant level, you want to get the design firm and the design humans, the team at that firm that you want, or the purchasing agent that you want. I think in 23, 24, people are going to be a lot busier than they predict they are now. Not even being optimistic, just being a realist. The level of new brands we have in the US, there were 114 new brands in the last 6 years. There's more than 600 brands of hotels in the United States right now. And everyone is posting pictures on social media of where they are. You know, it's kind of their revenge travel. They're getting back out, doing a lot of leisure travel. And there's really not an owner, brand, operator, asset manager, et cetera, that can have their asset be falling behind. And I think we're going to see that a lot of change of ownership PIPs or property improvement plans are not actually going to be driven by financial default, which is what everyone thought would happen, what happened in 08, 09, but it's going to be driven by a huge CapEx need. And for the first time in all of our lifetime, lenders allowed owners to take their CapEx reserve that was usually a lockbox thing in the loan document, 4%, it had to go to CapEx. They were allowed to spend it on other things, heat, light, power, rent, taxes, labor, et cetera. So there'll be kind of a tale of two cities. We're going to have huge peak CapEx demand, less ability for the owners to pay for that unless they have a lot of retained earnings. And I think that could actually trigger a change of ownership, which actually triggers more CapEx. So I think we're going to have this huge peak demand somewhere in the 18 to 24 months coming on. I'd recommend also to owners, if they're going to retain their hotel and own it for the next cycle, even if you can't afford to do the entire project now, get ahead of the game and do the model room this year. We have a lot of large REIT clients and individual owner clients that are looking ahead going, okay, let me get the design team engaged. Let me get brand approval. Let me get model room pricing and production pricing, get the shop drawing, finish samples, everything approved, have the cake about 80 to 90% baked now, and then ready for a project next year.
Amazing, incredible insight. So we all have to pay attention, but one other question, bonus question.
Sure.
What do you do? What do you do? Let's face it. I could win the lottery, and what am I going to do with my multi-millions? Oh, I'm going to become a hotelier. So my point is, there's some hoteliers owners that aren't hoteliers, not experienced. So you're guiding them. How do you manage it when someone says, well, I got to open, and because I had this happen, I've got to do my renovation in 4 months. How do you manage that, Alan?
I had a conversation with an owner that fits your description earlier this week, and they were saying when they wanted to be done, and I had to specify what year. Were they talking 21 or 22? Because it's not possible. So, I mean, basically, it's our job. We work as a fiduciary agent for our owners, and it's our job to guide them to reality, not to be a yes person and just say, sure, they hang up the phone, they think everything okay, and then reality hits them in the face. We've told everybody, remove the phrase 18 to 22 weeks from your vocabulary. It doesn't exist anymore, unless all you want is carpet pad, wall covering, bed frames, TV mounts. We can do that in that time frame. And we're trying to get with owners early, give them the reality and say, maybe we do a staged renovation. No one wants to go into the room twice. There's cost of mobilization, contractors and other things to do that. But also for the owner to get with their brand and brand representative now and their management company and say, okay, we're committed to doing this, but we don't want to have the worst of all worlds, which is rooms out of service, not ready to go back in service, displace revenue at the wrong time. So we're encouraging people to try and get ahead of it, have product there maybe a little bit early, maybe spend a little bit more on 30 or 45 days extra warehouse to know that it's there. Also, don't liquidate the old item until you know the new item has arrived, it's the correct color, didn't arrive broken, etc. It might just be hang on to your floor lamps for an extra 3 weeks. Don't give those to the liquidator or the lounge chairs or whatever it is. So that way, we're helping ensure that there is no displacement of revenue and turnover happens in time. But if an owner is just intent on trying to say, I got to get this done in four months, we might pass. I don't want to enter a race we can't win.
Thank you. Good insight, really. You have to help. You have to help them, all of us. You have to help us manufacturers, design firms, every component. So we talked about High Point, and I want to now introduce Dallas Chapman, again, as I said earlier, he's with Bernhardt Hospitality. And of course, this is one out of 150 resident, showrooms that participate at High Point Market. So when you go there, you get to see product, you get to see vignettes, understand scale. So Dallas, you're, with Bernhardt Hospitality, and you're in charge in your position for primarily case goods, but furnishings in general. So what I want to point out is you've got this retail residential division that clearly has product that's of contract quality. So are you suggesting to the design firms that your, sales force is marketing to please entertain using these furnishings because they're perfectly viable? I mean, my God, we see people specifying off of a Wayfair and places like that, which yours are way up beyond that. So my question as well is, are your warranties any different? Are they extended? Are they similar to your custom-made products?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Lynda, for having us. High Point Market, thank you for hosting this call. This is an awesome opportunity to get everybody together, at least virtually, and look forward to seeing some of you, if not most of you, next week in Las Vegas at HT Expo as well. So it'll be our first big trade show since the pandemic started. But Lynda, to answer your question, yes, I mean, we have a big residential division. We have a big contract interiors division. So we have a lot of bandwidth across the entire portfolio of product as Bernhardt. Bernhardt Hospitality is its own division. We have our own product portfolio. We do share some products with residential, but we also have unique items specific to our division as well. We mine a lot of the products on the residential side at times to see if they meet hospitality warranty and construction characteristics that are required by the brands and owners and things like that. So we do offer full-time hospitality warranties on those items that we select for that portfolio. I think Christina mentioned it earlier, she's looking for sometimes just quick fixes and things to spruce up a room or a suite or a public space. We have a tremendous amount of inventory here in Lenoir, North Carolina, to service that type of need. We also have our full custom capabilities, and everybody knows, Vietnam is the #1 exporter of furniture. We have factory partners over there, extremely challenged at the moment coming out of Vietnam. A lot of the factories are on limited capacity with staffing, and getting product out of there has been a big challenge over the last month or so, and we're hoping by mid-September at the latest that things will start to come back. But all in all, we have a good assortment and diversification of business, which we've been able to weather the last year and a half better than most, I would say, because of that diversity. Our residential business is booming, much like everybody else's residential business. And so we're able to sort of, use that business and use that consistency of orders and volume, and sort of leverage some of that with helping our hospitality clients as well. So it's been a unique way. And I know that when we started talking about this panel and we were talking about questions and things to talk about, we knew that things were going to look different than the first time we had the conversation about 3 or 4 weeks ago about putting this panel together. Wow, 4 weeks has really changed the dynamic of the hospitality space and just daily life in general. So, look, it's a new day every day per se. We are certainly in a great position to service the owners and purchasing companies that are out there, and feel like certainly as Alan mentioned as well, I think there is going to be a lot of pent up demand for a 2023 sort of 2024 just boom in CapEx and projects that have been delayed or put on hold over the last couple of years.
Thank you. Well, as I say, I've been through your showroom. I saw a great product. I said, if the brands will, endorse the quality and what have you, you're a resource. I mean, that's how it appeared to me. So that's why I invited you to join us. So amongst our panel, before I get into questions and answers, people are dialing in. Got a few questions for you. My thought is, amongst ourselves, Darlene, do you have a question of Christina or Alan? Hey, we're all here. This could be a little meeting.
Sure, I have a question for probably Christina and Alan. So obviously I work in the logistics space, and although we try to always make things happen perfectly from the time it's shipping over in Vietnam till it arrives here, goes through the warehouse, and then delivers at the hotel, on the very, very rare occasions something's damaged or ends up missing. And one thing that we're running into that's been a challenge lately is that when the purchasing agent or the owner is trying to go to get the replacement piece, especially if it's coming from Vietnam or China, they're being told it's going to be 4 to 5 weeks out, or something that they could have had overnighted on an airplane, for a minimal cost is now going to cost $5,000. And we don't think that that's going to get any better. Are the owners or the purchasing agents doing anything about adding a little bit more like attic stock? Or I don't know if attic stock went away completely, but even for things like case goods, especially, or things that are being sourced overseas, are you guys thinking about adding maybe some attic stock to some of the new orders, so that if something does happen, it's not a 6-week lead time because of all these challenges that are going on?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that needs to kind of be on our radar and added to our overall scope and budgets to keep that in mind, because you're right. If something is damaged and it's in a series, it's very challenging to try to get something off the shelf or to quickly replicate. So that's an absolutely great tip. Alan, are you seeing that as well? I know we do it with material goods, but it may be something that we should start implementing on the case piece side or soft seating as well.
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of a balance of risk reward. The downside, especially with something like case goods, it's typically the most expensive item in the room, and storage in a hotel is so precious. Usually that space, it's got to be revenue generating space. So we've seen it a lot more, as you mentioned, on textiles and that type of thing, where a specific dye lot would be important to match. The one thing I'd say also in response to that is that if the headboard or a particular piece of FF&E behind door 101 is not exactly the same that's behind door 102, as long as the hotel owner can still rent the room, not that mission critical. If it's ballroom carpet, ballroom wall covering, ballroom chandeliers where there's 20 chandeliers, but you can't have 19 of look A and 1 of look B. So I think it's a balance point between, right now the owners don't have any excess capital. We even have a lot of owners trying to skinny down the attic stock. We might push back on, as I mentioned, dye lot items or things such as plant shades that don't cost that much. But on case goods, it's pretty hard and seating to get people to actually buy extra.
Yeah, and I think part of that too, Alan and Darlene, is just the storage of some of these pieces as well. Where do you put them, and then what does that cost you to inventory some of these items, certainly on the case goods or upholstery items. So it is a challenge. I mean, I think owners would like to take the attic stock, and they have this logistics challenge about, well, what do I do with it, and do I really want to deploy more capital for additional pieces that I may or may not use? So it's always a question mark.
Yeah, the front end capital is sort of the biggest challenge, right? I mean, as cost models go, and this is something we talk about daily, and we talk about, ad nauseum almost. It's one more item to add to this is really not favorable, especially when, we are at a point a year and a half in where as Alan, I think you pointed out, several of our properties for the owners are coming up for renovation or for improvement. You know, just because they sat around not being used doesn't mean that they don't need to be updated. So we're sort of in this catch-22 already with these capital challenges. So it's really, brands as well as owners are finding it really hard pressed to kind of build in these additional capital to cover for these, which is why a lot of these ad hoc items that you mentioned, Dallas, that is something that we deal with on a case by case basis, right? And, you know, high priced items like case goods, we just really can't account for as attic items.
Yeah, one other thing to add to that, to your point, the occupancy of some of the hotels may have been way down, so they got quote unquote a free year on the FF&E. But CapEx is more than just FF&E. So the roof, the parking lot, the elevators, chillers, you know, HVAC, that equipment. I mean, the sun and the rain and the hailstorms didn't care if your occupancy was 0% or 100%. You've got CapEx on the roof that's needed. So not only are we competing for dollars that we're to spend in the FF&E world, you're competing with the entire building CapEx needs. And a lot of the big dollar items are not occupancy driven CapEx needs. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting time. As I mentioned, the need for CapEx and the lack of dollars because the reserves are drained to zero is probably going to cause a lot more change of ownership than, you know, mezz loan calls and other financial issues.
Wow. Hey, you know, I have a manufacturer's rep. You know, I've had the privilege of working with one particular design firm that absolutely brilliant at not just hitting a budget, going below, and perfect documentation, blah, blah. But then I have this situation, and Alan, I ask you, when you get an owner asking for on and on bids of 12 and 15, and they want 16 bids to shop case goods, my God, you know, that process not only is expensive, I don't know what it gets anybody. One person's going to get chosen. So are they using this for, you know, maybe Christina, you might be able to add to, are you trying to judge, you know, where any given what's the purpose? I mean, because to me, it doesn't seem to get everyone somewhere good.
Yeah, I mean, we'll try again as a pure fiduciary agent of the owner. We're a consultant for the owner. So there might be 50 case goods manufacturers that could make that particular spec. It's our job to narrow it down to the 3 or 5 that are most logical for that spec. So our knowledge of not only which vendor, but which factory of which vendor. You know, is it stone? Is there metal? Is there a desk that pivots and there's motion to the furniture? Is it an all laminate construction? You know, whatever the details are, it's one of our jobs to try and narrow that down and not send it out to bid to 15 people. I think you can get to the point where you create disinformation for somebody and then trying to level all those, you know, FOB point, if it's seating was a carton charge included or not included, it can actually cause more confusion. So one thing we are doing a lot of now is doing bids, and this came up earlier in the session, to both domestic and international sources, sometimes even from the same vendor. So vendor A might manufacture in North America and in Vietnam, just to pick kind of 2 places of origin. So we are doing a lot of that because as we all went through this last situation, November, December, January, February, a lot of factories in Asia were closed. And then they started to reopen up. March, April, May, June, a lot of factories in the US were closed. Now we have a situation where a lot of factories in Asia are getting closed, and US factories are 99% up and running. However, they might be suffering from, you know, there's 20 raw materials. The 2 key ones are coming from a factory in Vietnam. So even if the item, one word of caution for all the owners, operators and asset managers, even if you think you're buying domestic because the item is made in the USA, it might be more assembled in the USA, and you still might be suffering some of the delays.
Yeah, Alan, we experienced that too, you know, because we do a lot of manufacturing in Vietnam, and do a lot of manufacturing in the Philippines as well. But the Filipino factory is saying, well, I can't get the raw materials I need because they're coming out of Vietnam and their factory's closed. So it goes back to the conversation around supply chain, how deep these things really back up. it's a global economy.
Yeah, and as
where
Darlene mentioned,
limited-
it's not limited to FF&E. If you look at Ford and GM and the major manufacturers, I mean, when Ford comes out and says their earnings will be down more than $2 billion because they can't sell F-150s without like headlights and windshield wipers, circuit boards for them. So, some of the most sophisticated global supply chains are suffering what our supply chain is suffering.
Correct.
Wow. All right, I have some questions from our audience. And one is with Carl Mayfield. He's asking Christina, are the hotel brands more flexible around brand standards and the design requirements and the pragmatic requirements? Or are the brands taking advantage of this time to rethink brand design goals?
Great question, Carl. Nice to see you on here. And I'll have Kavitha also maybe chime in on this one because she is the expert. But we have seen our industry partners and our brand partners be very understanding, and they have really become partners during this last 18 months about talking through our challenges, what's happening, lead times. Designs maybe have scaled back a little bit, or maybe we're going to choose to do something in the future, but they've really been understanding about allowing us to do what's best for the owner as well as what's best for the property. So it's been a really nice conversation with all the brand components, and they've been really humanized to the fact that as owners, we are going through some challenges right now, and so it's nice to have that partnership, and it's a deeper conversation among all the key players. So it's been very productive and very collaborative.
Well, Christina, one of the questions, and since you're on, one of the questions from an anonymous attendee was, what qualities do you look for when you are looking for people in this team? You know, whether it be designers or manufacturers. I mean, something that unique that says, I'm going to get you to the finish line.
Absolute problem solvers, and just partners that present themselves with confidence and the backing that goes with it, that you really have a sense that they care about what they're saying, that they're true and honest to what they're saying. They're going to give it to you straight. I love Darlene, how she was very honest and open, because it is a struggle right now and everybody's feeling it in different capacities. And so we need to rely on each other in this industry to really build each other up and have that level of confidence and trust. So we're really looking for people that can do what they say they're going to do and make good on the commitments that they're putting through. And to be honest, if they can't make it through on a certain date or time, we'd rather know that up front than invest time and energy and then have to keep checking in and asking, you know, where are we with this? Or, you know, where is the product? When will it be here? I think it's just that open dialogue. So we're really looking for those folks that can come to the table and be honest and trustworthy and help us through this time.
Well, I know one of my manufacturers always said, communication, and what top owner as well. You know, you can't communicate enough. Hey, here's a question, and I don't know if they got the direction right on this, but Alan's noted in it. And I think it'd be more manufacturing, but maybe Alan, Darlene, you're in business for warehousing, but the question was, who offers storage? Do manufacturers offer storage? I know you, Darlene, because you just said that's part of your business proposition, but do manufacturers offer storage? And Alan, would you be doing that?
Sure, I'll answer it and then maybe turn it back to Dallas, who is a vendor.
Yeah.
The vendors don't offer storage. As soon as they manufacture the product, they want it out the door as fast as possible. If something is prearranged, let's say that, you know, it's a 1,000-room hotel and they want to run 250 rooms at a time, 4 times or something like that with a set schedule. Yes, brief period of times, prearranged, thought process goes into it and plan. But Generally speaking, manufacturers are not in the storage business. They're in the manufacture, bill it, and ship it business.
Yeah, Alan, you're correct. I mean, there are a lot of times that we'll do a custom case good projects and it'll be phased in and we'll load containers and ship those out in store. We're happy to do those sorts of things. But in terms of bringing inventory in, stocking it, and then having an owner pull it out as needed, not really on our custom side. Now, if it's our regular running line, inline product, plenty of inventory, it's like shopping at Amazon kind of thing. We've got inventory, those SKUs, they're on the shelf and we can pull them. So it just depends on what product you're talking about in the portfolio.
Dallas, if you can deliver as fast as Amazon, your phone's going to be blown up in about 5 minutes.
I didn't say deliver, I said we're like Amazon.
All right, here's another one. And it was presented at 2:15. So maybe the answer was already given, but it's to Alan. What cost trends are you seeing across the procurement landscape?
In a one-word answer, inflation. I'm not aware right now of anything that's going down. Some things are going up more than others. I think lumber is a good example of, 3 months ago it was spiking. No one saw an end in sight. It's down roughly 70, 80% from its peak. However, it's still higher than 2019. So, while tendencies aren't destinies, trees don't grow to the sky, things don't just, containers, I know this has been recorded. I hope you don't play this back in 90 days and go, God, was he wrong? Containers are $50,000. But I think the key thing is keep in mind, and this is true of all commodities, the rules of supply and demand and the rules of commerce haven't suddenly changed. Prices go up much faster than they go down. So do I think we're going back to 2019 and pre-2019 cost levels? No, but I do think we will have a supply imbalance, get more back in balance in the next probably 12 to 24 months. But generally speaking, count on inflation.
Wow. All right, here's another one. Kevin Sanders asks all of you, have you seen a silver lining out of all this?
Yes, I've seen a silver lining. I think it's allowed us as owners to reevaluate and kind of look at how we've been dealing with our projects in the past. We've had multiple projects going on, simultaneous scheduling, and so to be able to really take the time to analyze and do things right from a planning perspective, I think has been a great silver lining for us as owners.
I would echo that as well from the brand side. I think we've used some of this downtime to really think about how better we could problem solve on product development, right? Everything that you're talking about in terms of the entire supply chain comes down to product development. So smarter product, how to get product faster to the owner, how do we source product, how do we develop it using our vendors and our commodity partners. So we're really kind of readjusting from how we historically used to think about it to how to better leverage how we work with our partners so that we can achieve these better goals. And again, things that come out of adversity, right? Sometimes are for the best. That's where we put our inventive caps on. So I think some of this downtime has really helped reinforce all the things that we hear from this collective here, right? To fruitfully problem solve for a tomorrow, pandemic or no pandemic, right?
And
yeah, Kavitha, I think you hit it spot on. I think as an industry, I think we've definitely sort of going through this together as a group at all levels. And this is a unique panel because we do have so many stakeholders here, which is cool. But I would say for us at Bernhardt, I feel like we're more of a consultant. It's been a much more of a consultative selling approach and talking about product and how do we do things. And there's just a lot more conversation around things, which has made us think and it's made us smarter. And I think as we sort of come out of this, that will benefit everybody because we'll have new ways of doing things. And we've shared a lot of ideas and not everything works and not everything sticks, but there are some silver linings in all those conversations.
That's right.
One thing I would add also is that, some of our great vendor relationships have become greater, and that the the level of transparency, their level of Lynda, as you were saying, over communication, not to the point of clients, but over communication to the point of letting everybody know what's going on so that we could let the owners know what's going on. And I think some best practices in terms of earlier communication, better problem solving have come out of this. But the other thing I would say is overall that kind of flight to quality of the vendors you thought were really good, but you never had to really test them. And this has tested everybody. And you're like, wow, they are really good. Or they ate part of a container upcharge because it happened after something was loaded or whatever the situation is. And we're seeing them innovate with different solutions to get the best solution for our client. So that's been really cool to see.
Mhm.
And I would just add on my side that I think a silver lining is people actually know what logistics is now, and they understand a supply chain. And I still find it amazing. I can drive to work and be listening to NPR on the way in the morning, and they're talking about the Suez Canal, and they're talking about rising container rates and all these other things. And I think before all this happened, people just sort of ordered it and didn't really understand what it had to go through to get here, and it just showed up. So I think we're all getting a little bit wiser.
Absolutely. That's why I say I love your area in particular. But back to Kavitha being with brand, one thing we haven't talked about, and it's us. We're going to be in that hotel room. And, what do the brands do that make the consumer go, wow, things are different? I don't know. It's cleaner. It looks like something's changed in this room. Part of the operations is a little different. And so, if you want to just grab a couple seconds on that, because, I went to hairdresser yesterday and I said, well, what are you guys doing that impresses the client? And he goes, people are paying attention to how cleanliness matters and our attention, and that our client matters. We are trying to impress them that they matter. They're the customer.
Absolutely. Well, I think this speaks to the success of our industry itself as we come out of this, right? I mean, our goal at this point, as we come out of it, 18 months in, despite the variant or the other, is that we're trying to boost general guest confidence. And guest confidence is what's going to build occupancy, right? And the morale to travel more and to know that they're safe in their guest rooms. And that's what's going to generate investor confidence as well. So I think it's all tied together, and that comes at the start of what does our product look like, right? It's been shut down or not used enough. But we've had to, I think all brands in the community of hospitality, which is why I speak in a collective, is that we've had to over-engage how we demonstrate that we are clean. If we did clean before, we're doubly sure of demonstrating that it's clean. When you go in and you unlock your door, there is a clean sticker on there. There's a clean wrap on all of these sort of portables, whether they're the remote control or around the toilet seat or if you have refrigeration in the room. So there's all these promises of green, right? And clean, and how we bring that apart so that as our guests enter, it kind of what I call de-anxietifies the guests as they go through the space. There's a variety of ways depending on the segment of the brand. So if it's in our mainstream segment, we probably have a lot more of that service quality, better impressions as people walk in, much more of that greeting culture. And that happens so that people inadvertently may not notice the plexiglass that's sitting at the reg desk, so they don't feel that sterile. There's more of what I would call this promise and re-promise of the fact that everything that you touch is clean. There's banners that say, we want you to be safe. It's not telling you to wear your mask, but it's just the encouragement that we as hotels care, right? We as beautiful for you, away from you, care about you. And I think it's that genuine nature of empathy that carries through what we all have talked about, right? It fundamentally starts at the place where you go to, your destinations, which are your hotels. So I would say that what we've done is to enhance that messaging to really address this anxiety that we all hold. I mean, I know I do, and I've been in the travel business, but when you do see that someone is really trying, you kind of let your, you know that you can trust them. You know that they're going to take extra care. I have to say, despite some of the staffing challenges that the hotel industry as a whole is facing, they're going above and beyond, in this current state to really impress people as they enter the hotel and really, welcome them and let them know that we have this promise of clean, that if
Okay.
anything is awry in the room, that they can come back and let us know and that they would be given a different room. So I think we, as a hotel industry at large, both from the owner's end and from the brand end, we've cultivated that way of really making sure that these are not only visibly beautiful spaces, but they feel clean and that we've gone above and beyond to ensure that someone feels that they can kind of lay back and not worry.
What a great message. What a wonderful way to bring our panel to close. I can't thank you enough. I'm going to turn the mic over to Ashley and just say thank you so much. Brilliant conversation. And I hope our audience enjoyed it. Thank you all. Ashley.
I would echo that. Thank you, Lynda. I think we could keep talking for another hour. This has been fascinating. Thank you, panelists, for taking the time and sharing your insights with us. Thank you to the audience for joining us. Just a few quick notes before we wrap up. We do hope that we will see you all this October at Fall Market, October 16th to the 20th, with October 17th and 18th being Hospitality at Market. The conversation continues in just a few weeks. Go ahead and get registered. If we did record this, if you need to see it again, there was a lot of good details here. If you didn't get your notes scribbled fast enough, we'll put it up on our YouTube page and our website here in the next few days so we can keep that conversation going. And if you need to get your CEU credits, we will be emailing all of you who attended today the certificates for that. With that, we will wrap it up. Thank you all for your time, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.